Alright, so now we're going to move on and do one-step equations with multiplication. And our two other things apply here. The equation does still have an equal sign, and when we move things, we're still doing the opposite. But I've got two new things to add since we are doing multiplication. This fraction here is not x over 3. It is pronounced as x divided by 3. We got to get used to this because when we're talking about operations, there's no math operation that does the opposite of over. The opposite of over is under. However, if we call this x divided by 3, the opposite of dividing by something is multiplying by something. And then we also need to remember that if you have an even number of negatives, it gives you a positive, and then an odd number of negatives would give you a negative. So an odd number of negatives gives negative. So okay, let's jump in and do some problems. So we have x divided by negative 4 equals negative 2. So we are going to solve this. We look and we have an x divided by negative 4. So the opposite of dividing by negative 4 is going to be multiplying by negative 4. So we're going to move our divide by negative 4 by multiplying. And we're going to just use a dot for multiplying. We don't want to use an x because we have an x there. By multiplying by negative 4. And we only have to do the opposite operation, not the opposite number. So just the opposite operation. And we're going to do that to both sides. So we multiply negative 4, multiply negative 4. And a divide by negative 4 times a negative 4 gives us a 1, which is what we want. If you remember our properties of real numbers, we're trying to get to a 1, which is the identity here. And then when we do negative 2 times negative 4, the two negatives give us a positive, and we get a positive 8. So we can just end this by saying that x equals 8. Now we're going to look again at one that's got decimals. You notice we've done one with integers, one with decimals, and then one with fractions, and we'll continue that with our division in the next video. So we've got x divided by negative 2.2 equaling 4.1. So again, we're trying to get the x all by itself. We don't want any other operations over here with it. So the thing we need to do is move our divided by negative 2.2 by multiplying negative 2.2 to both sides. So multiply negative 2.2, multiply negative 2.2. Our divided by negative 2.2 times our negative 2.2 gives us that 1 that we want. And then 4.1 times negative 2.2 gives us a negative, since there's only one negative there. And it gives us a negative 9.02. So we can now say that our x equals negative 9.02. Lastly, to our fraction. And fractions start to get funky whenever we start multiplying and dividing them. So if we have a divided by 5 equaling 3 divided by 10, we are going to still move our divide by 5 by multiplying by 5 to both sides. So I multiply both sides by 5, and because this is a fraction, things are going to be different as we go along here. So our divide by 5 times 5 still gives us a 1. That's what we want. That's awesome. That's perfect. Our 3 divided by 10 times 5, however, we can't do that right away. We need to turn this 5 into a fraction. Every number, every integer, if it's written like this, it's divided by 1. Every number is actually a fraction. It's just if it's divided by 1, we don't write it. Now that we've done this, and we have something better to look at, we can now multiply across. So we do 3 times 5 for a 15. 10 times 1 for a 10. And we get to simplify that now. So we get x equals 15 divided by 10, but now we get to simplify 15 divided by 10. So we divide both of these by 5 to get 3 divided by 2. So our final answer is x equals 3 divided by 2.